This is me talking to you through the internet.
I just got my sound bite. Welcome to GCP Life, episode number 27 for the 11th of November, 2022. GCP Life is sponsored by Kasna. At Kasna, we make your Google Cloud solutions possible. And I'm your host, Stephen Bancroft. On today's show, we take a look at the Google Q3 results, Google gets into blockchain, why some people may want to leave cloud, and we have another 5-item list. What a surprise. But before we get to any of that, I want to introduce the co-host of the show, Dave Wall. How you going, Dave?
Oh, I'm doing great, mate. I'm here in my GCP Life t-shirt.
You do have the t-shirt on today.
I do. I've got to rock the brand. I'm settled in. I've been talking to people all day, all week with workshops. I'm primed. I didn't even have to do my warm-up exercises
No,
today.
that's right. Gee, there's been a lot of talking, hasn't there? There's been workshops all week for us.
Yep.
I actually, doing the show is sort of actually giving me a little bit of a mental break. It's great.
It's nice to be able to switch gears and obviously it's still related, but you got to have some different topics.
Yeah, that's right. And we've just for the listeners, we've just kicked off another big GCVE project. Fresh off the back of the last one that we just completed.
like 1 week.
1 week.
Finished it on Sunday and then kicked off the next one on Friday. It's just
and this one's a doozy as well. Plenty of workloads. Probably, I don't know, what do you reckon? It's a good 12 months worth of work there.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's a big environment. So
and the piece of work we're doing right now is actually to determine that. But a big environment, big infra, lots of nodes.
Yeah, huge lift and shift.
Huge lift and shift. So, there'll be some stories come out of this one for sure.
For sure.
But in the meantime, I did a blog. I created a blog. I'll put a link in the show notes, but we recently had a need inside Kasna to create a squid proxy, and the purpose for that was so that we could have a knowable IP address that all our connections could come from, and then that IP can be whitelisted wherever we want to whitelist it. So I implemented this in Google Cloud, of course. The blog walks you through how to set it up. It gives you a link to my repo, which has got all the Terraform and the necessary bits and pieces to do that. And of course, you don't want to just have an open web proxy on the web. That's just inviting problems. So it's secured behind IAP, and you have to authenticate with IAP. And then
IAP is
Identity Aware Proxy.
Thank you.
Yes, that uses an IAM credentials to allow you to proxy your connection through their authentication tunnel. And you can proxy the proxy by piping effectively the squid proxy port through IAP, and then you've got a proxy inside GCP, which will give you a knowable source address for all the traffic. If you've got teams of people that have got to go through and connect to an environment, this is ideal.
It's interesting from a use case perspective, right? Because if you were a traditional company, you might have you have an on-prem environment, maybe you VPN into it, and then you've always got whatever your fixed IP address is. But for companies like ours, born in the cloud types of companies, like with no one's in a VPN ever.
No, we don't have a VPN. We don't have a building where we have a fixed address come from. It breaks the paradigm. A lot of other companies will go, well, we need to whitelist a single IP address. Well, we don't have that, right? No. We're in the cloud. We're all over the place. You're going to have to come up with a better way. This is the way. To some degree, I mean, it's not a VPN, but to some degree, it can help. Not only can you tunnel HTTP traffic, but you can also tunnel SSH traffic.
Very useful.
Very useful, right? So once again, they might provide a jump box, which is permitted to go inside to their network, and they only want connections allowed from a single source address. You can do that with this solution. Yeah, so go and have a look. I've got the link there in the show notes, and you can grab the source code for that. Other than that, I also found out that I mentioned the last show, I did a server. I did my server refresh here, and of course I got Proxmox on it. Of course, there's a Terraform provider for Proxmox, which I didn't know about. And so I've managed to go in and rebuild my own private cloud all with infrastructure as code. Oh, how good.
Very nice. Now, I do have to ask the question is, your initial Proxmox stand-up,
no.
How scripted is that? Is it like give me a nice pixie boot somewhere?
That would be good, actually. I think the NAS I've got will support Pixie Boot, but yeah, you're right. That's what I should do. But the hard disks, the disk partitioning might be a little bit weird for it to handle. I don't know.
Yeah, and you got to get that data in there at some point, and it's at some point you need to have some layer of infrastructure. Yeah, you need something to run the automation.
I guess I could use a tool like, and I haven't used this tool for years. It's called Make CD Rec, and what it'll do, it'll create a bootable ISO based off the image that you have on your machine. So now that I have it built, I can just create a bootable ISO, and that could be my build from now on.
Could be. Automation for automation's sake.
Automation for automation.
And then it breaks while you're away for the weekend.
Well, at least I could rebuild it quickly. If I didn't have any of that, it would be painful.
Go step your kids through just reinstantiating the environment.
Yeah, here's a 45-page instruction manual.
Oh, Dad, I don't know how to do it. Well, read the man pages.
How'd you go with that monitor anyway?
Oh, okay. So, you might recall last time round, I was dealing with a bit of a drama where the credit for the repair of my old monitor went to the retailer that I bought it from. So after the podcast, I called them up, and immediately they had the credit for me, and I was able, the next day I was able to buy a new monitor. So thank you, PC Case Gear, for sorting that out for me. And the new monitor is here, and it is back on the monitor arms, so we're all back 100% now.
Awesome.
I've been made whole. Awesome.
Made whole again.
Yes.
All right, and never should we talk of it again. No. Fantastic. Hey, did you hear that they're going to is it Google Workspace up to 1 terabyte? Is that?
Yeah.
Is that what's happening?
Yeah. So if you're a Google Workspace individual customer,
right.
So if you don't have not Workspace for business, but if you're individual, you're going up from, I think it was 15 gig, and now you're getting a terabyte for the same cost. Don't have to do anything.
Yeah, nice.
And yeah, I think they're adding a few other sort of nice things with email management and
mail merge tags.
Mail merge. I think they also, I can't remember if it was being added as part of this, or you do just get it as part of Workspace Individual, where you can use your Gmail calendar as like a meeting booking system. Right, you can, kind of like a Calendly or something like that. So you can have a public calendar, and people can book appointment slots for you. That's included in this now as well. So it's real nice. If you're a small business, even if you're maybe not, quite at the business level of Google Workspace, but if you're you might have a consulting business, or you've got a home-based business, I don't know, hairdresser or something,
sole trader or something.
Really easy way to be able to handle that with your customers.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, look, I think that's enough banter for now. How about we get on with the news items? All right, first cab off the rank, we'll take a look at the Google Q3 results. And I tell you what, everyone's surprised. Everyone's very surprised by this.
It was a nice bit of silver lining considering, the market currently.
Yeah, absolutely. So an article here on Acceleration Economy. Google Cloud posted a memorable Q3 with revenue up 38%, its lowest loss as a percentage of revenue ever.
Yeah, I think even though, like Google, like many tech companies, they missed hitting their earnings target with, obviously with the state of the economy over the last 3 months. Seeing how well Google Cloud's doing, number one in growth.
Not only that, it grew its cloud revenue from Q2 to Q3 by the same amount, 600 million, as Microsoft.
Yeah. And how much bigger is the Microsoft environment?
4 times.
4 times.
4 times, yeah.
Microsoft Cloud is doing 100 billion a year. GCP is doing about 25 billion. And yet, the same growth numbers.
Same growth. I know.
Right. As a percentage, Google's knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll take a look at a list later in the show where there are plenty of reasons, including this one, why Google is knocking it out of the park. To show that in this article, right, to show that progress, I'm going to offer 3 Google Cloud numbers for each of the past 5 quarters: its revenue, its loss, and the loss as a percentage of revenue. Now, this is really interesting, right? If you look across the last 5 quarters, you will see the loss in revenue. So Q3, starting at Q3 2021, the loss as a percentage of revenue was 12.9%. And then it's a sliding scale, 16.1, 16.0, 13.7, and then finally the last one, 10.2%, which has landed at 699 million out of 6.868 billion. So, I mean, it's going in one direction, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just... Yeah. I think it's very interesting. Obviously, it's great to see the numbers going up, right? Especially because we operate as a Google Cloud partner. But they've done all the hard work with scaling out the service, building out the data centers. Like, that's so capital intensive to grow it, and now it seems like they're really starting to reap the benefits. Yep,
of all that investment, of the non-trivial investment that it is.
Yeah.
And look, Alphabet are really committed, right? So Pyre's come out and said a few things. Alphabet is very aware of the need for Google Cloud to become profitable, right? They're in the game, right? They're not going to suddenly shut it down one day, which would be tragic for a lot of reasons, right? and Alphabet is eagerly pumping more money into Google Cloud to fuel the growth that will lead to the promised profitability land. Right, so yeah, they're in it for the long haul. They know it's going to take a while, and right now they're starting to see it turn around. Yeah,
for sure. I think as they've continued to kind of work on monetizing a lot of their internal IP as well. We've talked a lot about the security benefits and the things like assured open source, right? All of these services that Google have been paying for internally, right? They've got so much IP and resourcing in just managing their internal teams, and them being able to make a bunch of these services now as paid for services. It's kind of like back really when the cloud kicked off initially, right? When Amazon started being like, well, we had to build data centers for our services. Maybe we'll let you guys rent them. So why shouldn't Google be able to monetize a bunch of that security expertise?
Yeah, they're using it in-house. Yeah, sell it. And yeah, that's exactly what we're seeing, right?
Yeah.
So I will link a few articles in the show notes. One article in particular goes into the fact that the number 3, i.e. Google Cloud, matches the number 1 Microsoft in revenue growth. I think that for me, that just put me on my seat.
And I think also that Google's cloud growth this quarter was an increase on last quarter, whereas both Amazon and Microsoft, their growth went backwards. Obviously, they still grew, but they didn't grow as fast as they did the quarter before, whereas Google increased.
Yeah, good point. All right, so let's move on then. And I hear that Google Cloud is to enter the blockchain world.
Yeah, now, they've been circling for a bit, huh? So there was a couple of interesting announcements there. So one is their blockchain node engine service, right? So we love a nice engine. We've got compute engine, we've got VMware engine.
Puts it all in a neat little package,
yeah,
right?
We've got node engine now, right?
That's it.
So the initial release of Google blockchain node engine is just supporting Ethereum, right? The Ethereum blockchain. So what they're really trying to do is they're trying to make it a lot easier for if you're a developer or I guess just maybe if you've got the interest to stand up a full Ethereum node inclusive of the blockchain syncing and speeding that up. Now, somebody deciding to spin up a full node like on a PC at home, like anyone can do it. There's plenty of instructions on how, but that initial seeding of like every transaction that's ever taken place, it takes a while. There's hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
So this will speed that up. They kind of give you a way to help bootstrap the environment. So that's nice. And I think also the other piece is that the crypto space that has a trust problem. Right. So you're like, oh, I want to stand up an Ethereum testnet node, right? And then you go read an article and, oh, maybe it's got like a shell script in there that I can run to go stand up. Like, okay, can you really trust that? Especially if, you don't have a strong background in there. So
I just have a look and go, oh, well, this is right.
it'll be fine. Yeah.
It'll be fine.
So I think that's nice, right? Coming from a kind of trusted third party.
It's all been vetted up front.
Yeah. So the initial release of this would let you have Ethereum node with, as I mentioned, either the production Ethereum blockchain or one of the testnets. And then they mentioned in this article that they would soon be supporting other blockchains. And lo and behold, they've already announced that they are expanding this service with the ability to run a Solana validator or a Solana node. So that's been added in as an additional service. And then alongside that, like I think Google's also announced that they are now hosting their own Solana validators as well. Now, I don't know a huge amount about the Solana blockchain, so I'm not going to make any kind of value statements there, but it's nice to see, I guess, more of the cloud services taking on some of the responsibility of running the networks, a bit more stronger reputation behind them.
Yeah, lend credibility to them.
Yeah,
of some sort. Yeah. Even if it is from that security point of view, like you say. It's been vetted up front. It's all good.
It's kind of interesting at the moment because we're in like a bear market for crypto, right? It's not like 18 months ago where valuations were just running crazy. This is kind of like if there's a bit of a cycle in crypto. This is in the low point. Valuations are down, so it's nice seeing kind of more legitimate articles that even if it's good news versus just hype.
All right, then. So the security news for this week, I just thought I'd grab this one, given that there'd been, the security environment in Australia at the moment it's got a lot of attention, shall we say.
Did something happen?
Yeah, so a few things have happened. And look, we'll get Rick on again maybe in a few weeks just to follow up where we're at with Medibank. But I thought I'd just point this one out. Persistent and Google Cloud launch a solution to help organizations recover from cyber attacks. Now, this is a tool that's available in the marketplace that you can get and primarily protects you from ransomware attacks. Persistent intelligent cyber recovery includes tailored recovery plans, persistent IP for finding and remediating malware, and the optional managed service to administer the recovery process. Sounds cool.
Okay.
What does it offer you? Well, a reduction in data loss, decreased risk of recurrent attacks through the removal of malware, faster recovery for ransomware and zero-day attacks, potential cyber insurance cost reduction, and scalable solution depending on enterprise size challenges.
Right, so it sort of seems like a bit of an enhanced DR, right? So it's not just like a backup of your environment, but it also deals with, I suppose, if you've got malware in your environment that is now in your backups as well, like helping to clean that in the recovery side of things.
Yeah, that's right. It sort of gives you a wrapper on top of your traditional backup and DR, and you can back things up for days, but when it comes to the recovery, it's not always clear, right?
No,
and I think this gives you some guidance around that, and it can give you processes to help you with that. To take a quote here, persistent intelligent cyber recovery combines strategic planning and the creation of playbooks, integration with Google Cloud Services, and our own IP to find anomalies that indicate malware, remove the malware, and use automation to set up and test production environments to scale.
Great. Another tool in the toolbox.
Targeted at small to medium business that may not have the capacity, capability, resources to have a full ransomware recovery plan. This can do that for you.
Yeah, it's true, and that it is something that small businesses especially do struggle with, right? It's a large cost, and plenty of them just kind of fly by the seat of their pants. I mean, not just small business, plenty of large businesses too.
Yeah.
They just kind of assume that I'm inside my perimeter and nothing can ever harm me. And
nothing can ever get in. No, that it's not the case. Yeah.
No, never mind. You got Kevin in accounts goes and clicks on an attachment that crypto locks your entire network.
Well, I mean, as we've seen, it's always a human factor, right? I mean, that's pretty much how it looks. Medibank has panned out. Some credentials were given out, and lo and behold, there goes your data.
Does actually take me back. And I'm thinking about the human factors. I remember one incident where someone who will remain nameless, but wasn't me, was one of our internal customers.
Is this a horror story?
It's a horror story.
We're getting a horror story.
It's a little one. It's more just like a cautionary tale. But this particular user, they got an email that was dodgy, and they clicked the link, and it crypto locked their laptop. And you'd think that they would learn their lesson from that. They lost everything. That laptop didn't have a backup, right? They lost all their data. They really felt the burn of it. And then the next month, we did an internal phishing exercise. And they clicked the links again. Come on, you had a real world example.
You got burnt once.
Come on, mate. So, I mean, that does sort of go to show that human factors are a big thing, and you can't also sort of rely on people even to learn to do the right thing.
That's right.
Can't trust that people will protect us.
All right, moving away from security for the moment, came across an article on data center dynamics discussing two companies, in fact, that want to move away from cloud. Now, we often talk about a lot on this show about companies moving into cloud and all the excitement about, modernizing everything and how easy it'll be, your mess for less kind of things. But here we have a situation where we have two companies, Basecamp and Hey. I'll put a link in the show notes to the article. They move off cloud. Now, this is a blog post by the CTO and co-founder David Heimermann Hansen of Hey, and it's the blog is full of quotable quotes, and
there's a lot of justification of why they're doing that.
There's a lot of talking points in here, and Dave, I just thought I'd bounce some of these off you.
Okay.
We'll see what we say. Think about them. So what he says, it's finally time to conclude. Renting computers is mostly a bad deal for medium-sized companies like ours with stable growth.
Okay.
Just let that sink in for a minute, right? Right. The savings promised to reduce complexity never materialized. So we're making our plans to leave. I don't know. All I can say is they're probably doing it wrong. That's all I can say.
Okay, I reckon if you're... Okay, let's devil's advocate for a sec, okay?
Yeah.
If your idea of the cloud is it's somebody else's computer, and I'm just going to use compute engine instances...
And you're going to click ops everything.
And you're like, oh, this is VMware, but it's Google, or it's Amazon.
Oh, no. Or even worse, these are, you treat them the same as on-prem servers. These are on-prem servers. I'm going to log in and I'm going to do blah, A, B, and C on them.
Yeah, and they're going to stay up online all the time, 24/7. So, okay, if that is your thought on how the environment should be, okay, you're really not embracing what you get with the cloud, right? But if you start thinking in terms of like, all right, let's maybe we migrate in, maybe we do have some traditional workloads that need to be on all the time. But if you start getting smart about it and go, oh, these things should be on a schedule, or this thing actually, it's a script, so it doesn't actually need to, the server that it runs on doesn't need to be up all the time.
Doesn't even need a server, right? You
can just run a cloud function.
Yeah.
Right? And sit it behind Cloud Scheduler. Right, and you can just come on, do the thing that you need, and then go away. That's where your benefits are, right?
That's
starting
right.
to consume consume services like PubSub instead of standing up your own message queues. It's like all the maintenance that comes with having to self-manage things.
So when I read this, I think, maybe you're not doing it the right way. You've kind of missed something there. He goes on. He explained that cloud makes sense when you have a simple application that benefits from a fully managed surface and works well when you have wild swings in usage. Okay, that I agree with, so that you can ramp up rapidly to meet the demand. That makes sense to me.
Sure. Yep. You want to use like load balancers and managed instance groups and auto scaling policies and stuff, for sure.
But I don't agree with the statement that it makes sense when you have a simple application.
No.
It can be as complicated as you want, right? It's simplified by the fact that if you break it down into microservices, each of those services are simple, right? But
they should be able to scale independently.
But, as a Gestalt entity, yes, I said Gestalt entity, it's complex. So, I mean, a statement like that, I think, I don't know. To me, it sounds like he's not doing it right yet again. And he goes on to say, but neither of those two conditions apply to us today. Okay. Yet by continuing to operate in the cloud, we're paying an at times almost absurd premium for the possibility that it could. Absurd premium. That's the words he's using. As cloud engineers, right? Like you've done some Google training. I've done some Google training, right? One of the big things that Google are constantly pushing is get the cost down, right? Right, get the cost down. Work it into your design, right? Everything they come about. They went from spot instances, for instance, right? Yeah. That was a big one, right? So they brought that in so that it would be cheaper.
Yeah, and right? Spot instances are like, what is it, like 90% cheaper?
It's nothing. Yeah, next to nothing. So your app's designed poorly, mate. It's it's not the cloud that's the problem. It's the way the app is designed to run on the cloud.
Uh-huh.
It's not doing it right.
it's this note in here, like they're spending more than $500,000 a year just for database IDS and Elasticsearch in Amazon. Right? His quote is, "Do you know how many insanely beefy servers you could purchase on a budget of $500,000 a year?" It's like, well, yes, and then you got to run a data center, and you have to manage the life cycle of them. And with the existing supply chain problems, you have to be able to obtain those servers, and then you need to license SQL.
Yeah, and it's the life cycle, right? It's when they expire and you have to swap them out. Right? That is a big piece of work, a lot of effort there. That all goes away with cloud. Right, so he's not looking at the total cost, right? He's not looking at the total cost of ownership. As for the argument that the cloud makes things simpler, he claimed that while it helps in some areas, it makes others more complex. No. What he means is it's a different skill set. And it's a skill set that they, by the sound of it, never comprehended. Have never been able to onboard or learn, or maybe the staff weren't willing to learn cloud skills.
Yeah, they want to go back to I have an empire of tin in a colo facility.
Yep. And he goes on to say, "I've yet to hear of an organisation at our scale being able to materially shrink their operations team just because they moved to the cloud."
So, I mean, okay.
I told you this is quotable quotes.
But I think, though, is that whole thing of like, yes, you move to the cloud, there are different skills.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm a big believer in that. Like, yes, you migrate and then you free up your operations team, you free up the toil from them so that they can deliver more value.
And move on to other engineering tasks.
Yeah, if you you're looking at the cloud because like, oh, this is great, I can outsource my IT team. Like, yeah, I think you've approached that whole thing with like the wrong perspective.
It's the wrong approach, isn't it? Absolutely, yeah. What he's probably failing to recognise there is the fact that, as you say, they've moved on to other more interesting tasks and work, and been able to engineer other solutions and innovate in other spaces because it's freed them up. Assuming they're employing cloud the correct way.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If they're just keeping a very basic thing, like we were kind of highlighting at the start there, then yeah, okay, I can see why it would take the same, right? If you're still handcrafting servers.
Yeah. The same number of servers it doesn't matter if they're on-prem or in cloud. It's the same number of servers, right? It's going to be the same amount of effort unless you apply the cloud operating model in cloud. In other words, infrastructure as code.
Managed services wherever possible.
Managed services, microservices, serverless, GitOps, those kind of cloud paradigms that will save you effort in the long run. Yeah, we could go on forever with Mr. David Heinemeier Hansen. He's got a lot to say.
We're going to trigger some beef with him with our counter rant. But if you're the type of person that throws cushions at the TV when you're watching sport, like I am, then have a read of this article because it'll trigger you. I thought we'd move on to a list, Dave. A list. Sure. Love a list.
Love a list. And some of the items on the list, this list are going to relate to a few of the things we've talked about. This is a list from CRN, Google Cloud's 5 big earning takeaways: hiring, workspace, and Mandiant. All the topics that we quite often talk about. This article kicks off by talking about their Q3 results, which is, I have to say again, was quite good. But then it goes on. It kicks off the list with, these are all reasons why Google Cloud is going to be successful. Why they think it's going to be successful, and we can see a pattern here, a definite pattern. First of all, we had Google adding employees. So via the Mandiant acquisition, Google Cloud added 2,600 employees. That's good, right? It's always growth.
Yep, that is good.
Yep.
Highly skilled Mandiant people.
Absolutely. They closed the deal in September and proud to welcome more than 2,600 colleagues to Google, Pinchai said. Well, that's nice. And then, so besides that, they Google itself is slowing hiring at the moment, but Google Cloud isn't. So they're still taking on staff, still hiring technical people. With respects to Alphabet's headcount, we've added 12,765 people in the third quarter, including more than 2,600 of those joining Google Cloud as part of our acquisition. That's what Poiré said, which is actually down. However, it appears like the Google Cloud will not be affected by the slowdown.
Well, like we saw in the sort of earlier articles, right? They know that there's so much potential in Google Cloud, and they're putting that investment in. And that investment isn't just infrastructure, but it's people.
It's people. Yep. Number 3 on the list, Google Cloud operating at a loss of $699 million. Well, as we covered, like, what? Well, that's not a good thing, but it actually is.
Yeah.
But they do start off this point by saying Google Cloud has still yet to generate profit. But things are looking up. Number 4 on the list, Google Workspace hits 8 million customer milestone.
Yeah, big growth. And I saw because now they've got the US Army is on board.
They do. 250,000 Army personnel. And it's now used by more than 8 million businesses.
Yeah. It's such a good tool.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sold. Yeah. That makes things so much easier.
Like a year on now for being in a company that you're like, that's it. I'm hooked.
This is the way I do. This is the way I work now. That's it.
Why did I do it any other way?
Never again. And the final item on this list, and we touched on this earlier as well. It's interesting. This is why I brought this up, because every article that we've talked about, every one of these points is mentioned in everything we've talked about this week. Google CEO, Google Cloud, a long-term key priority. So Google and Alphabet are absolutely dead set committed to Google Cloud. They're just going to be spending more money on it, encouraging the growth, bringing in new partners and new technologies, and not walking away from it at any time.
No, yeah. But I guess because it pays off so many dividends back to Google itself, they consume their own, they eat their own dog food. We mentioned back on the bit earlier about, using their bought and paid for IP and being able to turn that into other products. Yeah, it's all good signs, moving in the right directions.
Okay, well, that's about it for news items today. I thought I would go into what is it this fortnight.
Ooh, yeah, we didn't have one last fortnight, did we?
Didn't have one last one.
Anniversary podcast. So.
Had the anniversary podcast, which was fantastic. I loved having everyone on there. And we all got to talk about Next, which is very exciting. I thought today I'd talk about hub-spoke topology.
Ooh, okay.
I've been asked a lot
on my bike
lately. Like on your bike, yeah. So you got your hub in the middle and then you got your spokes on the wheel, right? What is hub-spoke topology? Okay, so hub-spoke topology itself is a distribution paradigm. Now, the term actually comes from transport logistics. It's a way of optimizing traffic planners organized into a series of spokes that connect to outlying spokes that connect to a central hub. So you can imagine that picture in your mind, like what we said, a bike wheel. Mm-hmm. And each point has a direct route to every other point. Okay, now that's as opposed to a point-to-point topology where every point would connect to every other point, right? And there's maths you can go through to work out, the efficiency of one over the other. hub spoke itself is actually a methodology for transport. Delta Airlines pioneered the spoke hub distribution model in 1955, and the concept revolutionized the transport logistics industry after Federal Express in the US demonstrated its value in the early 1970s. Then in the late 1970s, the telecommunication and information technology sector adopted this distribution topology, dubbing it the star network topology.
Oh, that does take me back.
Right. Now, in my opinion, to use the term spoke hub or hub spoke in reference to networking and computing, it's actually the incorrect nomenclature.
Oh, okay. Right.
The correct nomenclature, if you to go by the adoption of the term, should be star network or star topology. Because if you're using the term spoke hub, you're specifically referring to the topology for transport logistics. I mean, it really doesn't matter. If you want to split hairs and be nitpicky about it, then that's what I would say. In my opinion, that's the way it should work. But we're not going to change the world, right?
Yeah. You're going to go on a crusade for star networks, and I'm going to go and try and bring down Tibby bytes.
Tibby bytes, God. So the advantages, right? So the advantages: if one or more connection breaks, it does not affect the other computers or the connection. So you've got one endpoint connecting to a hub. If that endpoint breaks, you're only affecting that endpoint, right? Devices can be added or removed without distributing the network. So one of the other topologies you might have heard about is a ring topology, and ring topologies do have this problem because you've got every point only connecting to 2 points, and you connect them all together, it forms a ring.
Right? Takes me back to token ring.
Exactly, right? You can break the ring, but the traffic has to go all the way around the other way to get to the point closest to it, right? Star topologies work well under heavy load, right? Because you've got a dedicated link for that connection, and they're appropriate for large networks. It helps you segregate things more easily. The disadvantage, they're expensive due to number of and length of cables. Now, this is if you were in a traditional network and you had those blue cables and you were wiring everything up. But the concepts, I think the concepts translate. They're expensive due to the length of cables and the number needed to wire each one up. The central hub is a single point of failure for the network. So think of an office, think of all the computers in the office, and they're wired into a switch on the wall. That's a staff topology.
Yeah.
Right? If that hub breaks, that switch breaks, game over.
Yeah, everything that's connected to that location is down.
Down, yeah. But if that wire breaks, it only affects that workstation.
But Banky, we're in the cloud now.
We're in the cloud.
We're in the cloud. No blue cables for us.
So how does this relate to the cloud? Exactly. So why would you do this? Well, when you design a Google Cloud topology for large enterprises, you might need to plan for network level isolation of resources used by different business units, workloads, or environments, right? That sort of isolation would give you granular control over network traffic for each group of its resources. It could help you meet legal and regulatory requirements for data separation requirements, right? I'm thinking, you might have production and non-production. You might want to separate them, for instance, and they come back to a central point. You might have different applications. You might have an application that's got PII in it, and you want to put a different set of control rules around that versus, an app that doesn't have any PII in it.
Yeah, or, I guess if you've got workloads that fall under scope of like PCI DSS, you might want to keep them completely apart from everything else.
Yeah. In Google, there's two main ways you can do this, right? So you can achieve it with VPC peering. So with VPC peering, you have a central VPC network project, and then you have peers that are connected into that, and they radiate outwards from that hub, that central hub project. Now, that does have one downside, and that's the restriction around VPC peer transiting, and that problem is you cannot go through a peered VPC through to the other side to get to a peered VPC on the other side. You can't transit through that VPC
so
in the middle.
If you've got project B and it's got peers to A and C, A wouldn't be able to speak to C. B could speak to both. A and B can talk together, B and C can talk together, but A can't talk to C through B.
That's right. So B's your hub in that topology, and you can't go through B to get A can't go through B to get to C, correct? Yep. Yeah, that's a limitation of the peering technology in Google Cloud. Now, there is a way you can get around that, and that is you can create a VPN connection from, in your case, from A to C, and then that would allow, or from A to B, in fact, and then that any traffic that needs to go across that hub can go via the VPN. But that's just kludgy. In my mind, that's just so kludgy.
Yeah, I mean, there are topologies where you deploy like a network appliance in like a compute engine network appliance and give it NICs in all of the VPCs, and then that becomes your router. But again,
you can dream up a million ways.
There's so many ways to cut it. It's just, it's not a good place to be.
No, we're just talking about cloud native constructs here, right?
Exactly.
Now, the other way you can do it is with VPNs, purely with VPNs. Now, you don't have that transitive peering restriction here. So you would have a central hub project, and then you would have VPNs going out to your spokes. And then using traffic routing, you can go through the hub and then out to any of the spokes that you want to using a VPN.
True. You are cutting down your network performance, though.
Exactly. So every VPN tunnel has a limit of 3 gig throughput. Now, you may not have high bandwidth requirements. In this case, this would be perfect for you, right? Now, in Google Cloud, there is a third way you can achieve this, of sorts, right? And that's called VPC sharing, a shared VPC.
It's exclusive to GCP.
Exclusive to GCP. Now, what you can do is, obviously, a VPC in Google Cloud is global. So you immediately, when you spin up a VPC, you have subnets in every region. Straight away, you just get that out of the box. Now, what it's possible to do is set up a shared VPC, and one of those subnets, or you can make a new subnet for it if you like, can be placed into another project. And that subnet then appears in both projects. You have a shared VPC. Now, if you're crafty about this and you design it the right way, you effectively get your star topology.
You do, yeah. And right. you can even do things where, like, you could have a production shared VPC and a non-prod shared VPC, which all have their different resources. But maybe you've got something in prod that's shared. Think like a domain controller or DNS or something. And you can peer, you can do VPC peering between those two shared VPCs.
Oh,
and then it works.
Blown.
Mind
blown, Dave. Mind blown.
Because then you've only got one hop. You've only got one peering to do. There's no transitive to deal with.
No. And in this model, the central project's called the host project, and then the spokes, that would be the hub. Then the spokes are called the service projects. Have all your services in them, right? And it also gives you the additional benefit that all your networking is controlled from that one hub. Now, if you use purely the VPC peering model, you have network control points everywhere. The hub, you've got a firewall, all the spokes, you've got firewalls. It could just end up being a big jumble mess. But as we said, maybe that's what you need. Maybe that is what you need to meet legal or regulatory requirements. But if you want to just keep it simple and it's like a normal sort of internal org kind of network, go the shared VPC for sure and just control it all from one point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, VPC peering still has there's still a need for it. There's still a use. Like, you can use it to peer a VPC to like an external company. You can have an external organization. You don't have to.
And that's its I think from everything I've read, that seems to be a primary use case for it. You've got two organizations that have come together. They both use Google Cloud. They now need to talk to each other. Bang, you peer them together. You've got firewall control points at both ingress and egress. Happy days. Well, there you go. That's my little breakdown of hub and spoke or star topology.
It's great. I think like right now, like it's very relevant, and it's as more and more companies are migrating onto the cloud, and they're trying to transform their enterprise networks. Right, it's good to have a nice primer.
It is, and we're going to try and do some more of that. Give you guys the insight on what some of these terminologies are. But I think that's about enough from us, Dave. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think so too. The weather's warming up. It's getting a little hot here in the studio.
Yeah, right. I got the aircon blasting. It's been a full day. I tell you what, from back-to-back meetings and now this. Yeah, now I've got to go away and do the edit. Busy times. Don't forget to go to iTunes and write us a review. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. I mentioned it before, there's Kasna Between Two Clouds, our YouTube channel. Ooh, I got some surprises happening with YouTube, Dave. Don't you worry about that. There's some things in the works there.
No teasers? Or?
No, I'm just going to keep it under the wraps for the moment, but it's coming along.
Watch this space, people.
You watch this space. You can contact the show, gcplife@kasna.com.au. We've got the Twitter there @gcplife. Don't forget to check out the website. We've got links to all the Spotify shows, and you'll see our pretty smiley faces up on there as well. And of course, today's sponsor is Kasna. At Kasna, we make your Google Cloud solutions possible. All right, well, I think that's about it from me. What about yourself, Dave?
No, you know what? I'm all tapped out. I got nothing.
That's it. I'm going to go and grab a coffee. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Wow, I'm seeing an hour. I did not expect that show to go for an hour.
No, when we were at we're almost through everything, and we were like 30 minutes in. I'm like, oh no, it's going to be a short one.